Van Dyken here with my co-host Susan Clinton, and this is our 10th project of the Genius PT project. And we are doing a series right now on how to empower effective health behavior change as physiotherapists, as clinicians, looking at integrating a biopsychosocial perspective. This is our third session this year of this particular topic. We had Dr. Joe Tata on first, and then we had Dr. Sinead Dufour. And now we're thrilled to have Małgorzata, who also just recently got her PhD. So it's Dr. Małgorzata. I'm going to try this. Starzec? No, I didn't do that right. Proserpio. She's going to really pronounce it much better than I did. I tried, but joining us from Poland. And Małgorzata and I had a chance to get to know each other, I think 2 years ago now, when she came to Canada for a lengthened stay and spent a little bit of time up in Huntsville with me, but also spent some time doing some classes with us at Pelvic Health Solutions and spent some really valuable time in the clinic with Dr. Melanie Morin at Sherbrooke. So welcome, Małgorzata. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and please pronounce your name better than I just did.
So my parents didn't really think I will be eager for some international career. So my name is really not international. It's Małgorzata Starzec-Proserpio. So it's like Polish-Italian mix. And I'm a physiotherapist from Poland. As you said, I have recently completed my PhD, and currently I'm joining my clinical work with the research, which is really good because we can't do research without clinics, and we can't be a clinical worker without having the insight from the research. And I was kind of very, very fortunate to be able to get the scholarship and go to Canada when I could meet you and Sinead Dufour and a lot of other really great researchers and clinicians. And it was something that totally changed my my background. It's totally changed the way I look at physiotherapy, at the pelvic health, at the biopsychosocial framework. I still believe there is still much more into this, so I keep learning, of course, but this is something that was a game changer for me, definitely.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about how long you've practiced as a physiotherapist and what the training is like in Poland? And let's just start there. I can ask 3 or 4 questions, but let's just start there. Tell us a little bit about how long you've practiced and what the training is like.
So I consider myself as a pretty young practitioner, as this year I'm getting my 5th anniversary. So it's only 5 years that I work after completing my my master degree. So from one side, it's not a lot, but from the other side, this 5 years, this recent 5 years, they were very, very intensive. And coming back to your second questions, how the physiotherapy work in Poland, how does it everything function here? So when I was completing my studies, we were having like the 3 years bachelor studies and then 2 years clinical master. And currently the things are changing. We are finally having our law, our Chamber of Physiotherapy, the special law for physiotherapists. And currently our studies are 5-year-long studies, which are finishing with the master degree. And when it comes to physiotherapy in Poland, what we see, and especially what I see as a young physiotherapist across those 6 years of my studies and 5 years I work, so during this around 10 years, the things have changed tremendously. So when I was starting my studies, the physiotherapy was in totally different point as it is right now. Polish physiotherapists are really eager to learn. They make a lot of courses. They invest a lot of their private time in order to learn more. We are having pretty big freedom, because although we have our law, most of us are practicing in the private clinics, because this is actually where the modern physiotherapy is held in Poland. So we are not so much into this social system. We still have this physiotherapy that's discovered by the national healthcare system, but the real physiotherapy mostly, not just to say black or white, but mostly it's in the private clinic, and that's where we are basically most of us working, especially when it comes to pelvic health, which is also my area, as I work with pelvic pain patients, but also with the incontinence patients, with postpartum and pregnant patients. So this area of physiotherapy currently in Poland is only within the private sector.
That sounds very similar to Canada, actually, where we have some public healthcare in hospital, but nothing really from sort of an outpatient musculoskeletal pelvic health. None of that actually happens in the hospital. And it does leave quite a hole, actually, for people who don't have coverage for private sort of care. And unfortunately, that need is not being addressed particularly well in Canada. Do you have the same issues in Poland as well?
So usually we don't even have this kind of like insurance coverage. Most of the people are paying for our visits out of their pockets. So this is how it works. But what we see, it's good for us physios, that during this last 10 years, we can really see the big change among our patients. The awareness about the role of physiotherapy is really big currently. And in most of the bigger cities, the major cities in Poland, it is said that everyone has to have his psychotherapist, his physiotherapist, and a physiotherapist for his kid or her kid. So the awareness is getting much bigger than it was just a few years ago, and the people are really happy to invest within the physiotherapy as they see it's needed.
Interesting that people feel that they have to have a psychotherapist and a physiotherapist. I really sort of keyed in on that because from a biopsychosocial perspective, would you say that Europeans are further ahead in understanding the different domains of pain and health more so than maybe in North America, where I think we're still quite focused on the biomedical, biomechanical kind of approach?
Actually, I do believe we are also still very into biomedical approach. I mean, this is the thing only in the people that are usually in the bigger cities. This awareness is a bit big more. But the problem is that when it comes to physiotherapy, psychotherapy, everything, what I see here in Poland, it's everything really detached. So we know that it's everything connected. We know this body-mind connections and so on, but the physiotherapists are working only through the body, and the psychotherapists, they're working only through the mind. So there's not yet this really interconnection, especially when it comes to physiotherapy. So we are into this really like traditional way of seeing the psychosomatic patients. So we are working through the body with their things like depression and anxiety, but we are not really incorporating the psychosocial approach, so the communication skills, so how we approach the patient, how we speak about their needs, their expectations. I believe this is something that we still have to a bit evolve.
Very interesting. Go ahead,
yeah,
Susan.
I have a question. In the beginning, you talked about when you came over to Canada to, pursue, I believe, some fellowship work around your PhD, and you got to spend time with Carolyn, and you got to spend time with Sinead Dufour and various people while you were there. And you said that it changed your practice, it changed how you thought. What was the stimulus? What was like the shtick that got you that said, oh, I really need to do this differently. I really need to do this way. I really need to step out of the biomechanical approach somewhat and begin to do the other pieces that you were just now talking about. Kind of, how did that happen for you?
So I have to say that I was very biomedically trained. So the whole medical world here in Poland is very biomedical still. So I was very biomedically trained, but I got this opportunity to get into research very quickly. So the research actually shows me that our strong confirmation bias, they are very often, they are not confirmed by the research. So when we see the numbers, they are not really confirming what we are believing, what we see, like everything like this. If I will release this muscle, then I will put this posture back in the place and so on. I mean, we don't have evidence for that. So actually it was the research that shows me that there's much more into this and that there should be a bigger understanding, because to me, research shows how many different opportunities you have and how many in different way you can look at the same problem. So this was the one thing. The second thing is that I got a great opportunity to start to work in a really like specialistic place here in Poland when I was starting to encountering this difficult patients, so the pain patients with the pelvic floor issues. And here in Poland, we were still like learning how to approach it, how to do it. We got just a few courses. Right now we have much more of them, but at that time we didn't really have much knowledge. So it was everything between us, and I knew that I needed something more. And then I was in my holiday and I got to read the book, The Pelvic Floor, when I could read the article of Melanie Morin, of Caroline. And then after reading this book, I was like, I have to meet those people and I have to do everything to go there. And especially like the chapter of Caroline, it was something that showed me a totally different perspective, something that I was missing. And then I went there, and that's everything changed, because I saw a totally different approach that from the other side was different from what I was learned before, what I was taught actually. But from the other side, the good thing is that it kind of completed my missing part, what I was missing in my everyday practice.
So given the nature of biopsychosocial, and the reason that I'm asking these questions is there's still a lot of practitioners in the States and Canada, all over the globe, that are still very much sitting in the biomechanical world, even with the lack of evidence that we have, as you so brilliantly pointed. When you started to make this change, I think for people, one of the biggest fears they have is, either I don't know what to say to somebody who may tell me that they're depressed, or this is like, they have losses in their life, or any of those kinds of things that may come out in our questioning. So people have fears about stepping into this approach fully. I think they think about it, and I think that they are understanding that it's important, but they don't know how to make the changes. Since you you did some reading, you got to meet people, you got to actually see the work in action. When you went back, how did you begin? Like, where were your first steps? What did you start to do to incorporate and start to make this transition over into a changing practice that you did?
What I did, it's actually what I was taught during the PHS courses, like just to do everything from the very beginning. So I didn't do like piece by piece. Now I will do this questionnaire, then I will do this technique.
Mm-hmm.
I just came back. It was, I came back to Poland after almost 2 months. So I got a fresh start, and I started everything from the beginning, like with the totally new approach, which was really good because I could already start a new rollout of patients with this new approach. So that was definitely something that facilitated all. And another thing that I believe was also a really big facilitator, and now when I speak with other physios how to incorporate the biopsychosocial work, I see that this was, I think, the major point, that I'm not working in this really like orthopedic facilities. So the places I work, one of them is a gynecological obstetric clinic. So it's not really connected with traditional orthopedic physiotherapy. And another place, it's sexology clinic, when they are psychotherapists, sexologists, and everything around this area. So also the people that are coming there, they are not expecting me to do some, 1 hour of manual therapy or really like training exercises. We are still doing it, but these facilities are helping me to incorporate this, because the people that are coming there, they do not have this expectation of this traditional biomedical approach in physiotherapy.
And is that an unusual clinical setting for a Polish physiotherapist treating in pelvic health? Do a lot of your colleagues in Poland struggle because they work still in more of a traditional model, and therefore it's a bigger challenge? What do you think?
I think so, because most of us are working within the traditional orthopedic or physiotherapy settings. there are more and more like gynecological offices or gynecological clinics that are having their physios there. So this, I think, is incorporating it a bit more, but still we are pretty young. It's just a few years that we have pelvic physiotherapy here. So still, I mean, too many of us, like when we are speaking with our colleagues from other cities, especially from the smaller cities, very often like the patient comes, they have the clothes to change for exercising. So sometimes it's maybe for them more difficult to start from a bit another side.
Right. So I was so thrilled that you were willing to take this Biopsychosocial Reframed class, or the level 3 from Pelvic Health Solutions that I have created. And actually, Małgorzata did a beautiful job of transcribing it all into Polish and to teach her colleagues. She ran the first class, I think it was in March. Am I right? Was it March this year? How was it accepted in Poland? And can you give us any feedback on what your colleagues had to say?
So again, I was fortunate because the people that came into my course were the people that were at the same point when I left to Canada. I mean, they are working, they got great experience already, and they were missing something. They could step out of their confirmation bias. They needed more. They knew that all of the knowledge and all of the experience they have, it's great, but there's still something missing. So the people that went to my course, they were really open for the stuff we were discussing. They were really welcoming for those kind of subjects. They were not really like questioning or arguing with what we were discussing. And what I really enjoy, like, is since March, we have this every month, this office hours, and the people are coming for the office hours. We are discussing, and I'm very, very happy to see that they are really incorporating this, because the questions they are bringing to the office hours, the problems they are bringing, they come from the using of the biopsychosocial approach. So this is something that made me very proud. And now we are starting to collect the group for September. So hopefully that will be another little success.
Right, amazing. Were there any barriers that your colleagues found to integrating, and were those barriers different than those that you've recognized maybe in North America that we've talked about, as far as maybe integrating this model and using questionnaires and just broadening our scope?
So I remember discussions during the courses in Canada, and then I'm confronting it with the issues we have here. So the issues are totally different, because you, like North Americans, you are really good in communication and speaking. You are very open. Here in Poland, it's different. I mean, my Italian husband living here for a few years, he can tell you that we need more time to speak with people, to open, to ask maybe a bit less comfortable questions, to ask open-ended questions, to ask about the expectations of our patients. So what came out during the course, what is coming out during the office hours, and also when we speak with some colleagues around, the communication part is the most difficult for most of them. So this is something that actually during our office hours, we are spending lots of time. We are discussing it a lot, because this is something that it's actually the most difficult issue.
Would you say that? Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, I was going to say that's interesting, because when I talk to other clinicians in the States, there's two issues that come up. It's the communication, that they're afraid that their clients, are going to assume that it's all in their head. And then the second one is I don't want to ask all these open-ended questions, because I don't really want to I don't want them to take me on, this circuitous journey of everything. And it's kind of like the lack of the ability to kind of ask a question and hold space and allow that client the time to come in and enter, and feel safe in that space to kind of talk about what's really bothering them. And that you don't really need to have the answer, you just need to listen. And I think that's the hard part for people to wrap their head around.
And the thing is that what you really said, I think it's the most important stuff, that sometimes maybe we have to step out a bit, because what I see here in Poland, we as a physios, we were struggling and working really hard to get recognized, to get our lot, to get our chamber, to be recognized by other medical healthcare providers. And finally, we have our 5 minutes. So we want to be the hero, we want to be the fixer. And it's really difficult to give away this part. But the thing is that we can still be an important person within the whole process, but we don't have to be the hero, the fixer, the person that is the savior, you know. And I think this is the part that's very often, maybe because of our ego, we don't want to give back.
You know, you're reflecting certainly, I think, what we see in North America and what we see in Canada as well. And so as much as you may think that communication is a stronger skill set in our profession here in Canada, I would argue that is the biggest challenge that we face as well. It's holding space. It's not having to fix everything. And, you know, it's interesting because you're right. We sometimes hesitate to give away our power, quote unquote, if we must, to sort of say it that way. On the other hand, it's been my experience, and Susan and Małgorzata, I'd love to hear your opinion. It's been my experience that when you partner with a patient, your partnership is far more powerful than you ever could be as a fixer. Because now there's this collegial respect and just this depth of relationship, still on a very professional level, that is highly respected by the patient. And maybe because as well, it's still seen as different. And so you're almost seen as being a little bit more special and set apart because it is different than anything they've experienced before. I'd love both your comments on that, but.
I think the partnership part, that therapeutic alliance, is key. And, you know, most people appreciate, once they believe it, I think that's one of the communication issues, that since we're talking about communication, I think our clients are so used to being cut off. You know, they start to talk and tell their story, and then people come over and, as Joletta Belton always says, you know, wash it with their clinical narrative and tell them what's wrong and what they have to do and get very prescriptive, which we can, as physios, we can be prescriptive and we can still partner with our clients. And I think that's where the, you know, maybe the little thing needs to click together. It's like, you're not losing the ability to guide them into some prescriptive type services, but you're doing it with them choosing and working and understanding where they want to apply these things and how they want to do it in their life and what's important to them, and guide, you know, and then helping mold that individually for them, rather than 3 sets of this, 2 sets of that, walk 20 minutes and call me next week, you know. And I think that's kind of an important piece.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is totally a clue what you said. And what I see that here, still the rhetoric of fear, it's working really well. Because I mean, we have also like this kind of historical backgrounds here in Poland. So very often there was someone over us, someone who was telling us what we have to do. So very often expectations also that we believe that our patients want, that we will tell him you have to do this and this and this and this. But since I incorporated this stuff, I started to learn in Canada, and I'm trying to develop still, it's that much more patients are coming back since I use this like partnership approach. So still giving some answers, giving some prescriptions, but always within this more like coaching model, with asking what are our clients or our patients' priorities, what are their needs, what are their expectations. And since I ask a very simple question at the very beginning of the visit, like before we will start to do something, like what do you expect from this visit, or what would you like to do today, or what would be important for you that we focus on, like I see that very often what I would do, what I would propose to this patient is something totally different that they are expecting, that they need. So this is something that helped me a lot, because I have much more patients that are coming back now, much referrals from their families, from their friends than ever before.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we're running out of time, but I want to give you just a moment to just wrap up. Is there anything, I guess two things. Is there anything that you wish to say to the world? You now have many people across the world listening to you. Is there words of wisdom that you'd like to share, just based on even your ability to transcend cultures and really implement this information across cultures, number one? And number two, what would you like to say to your colleagues in Poland?
So the words of wisdom, I would say, maybe it's not going to be a big wisdom, but something pretty simple, like we don't have to be in charge always. We can still be the important person in our patient's life. We can still be respected. We can still be looked as a professional person with a high developed skills, but still giving the steering wheel to our patient, like not doing the stuff that we believe are good for the patients, because we know a lot of methods, we have a lot of tools, but the best tool from our point of view will not be the best tool for our patient. So the thing is that partnering with patient, I would say that would be the most important thing that I learned, and what is helping me with my everyday work. And to my Polish colleagues, what I would say, it's important to open a bit, to kind of question our confirmation bias, to question our beliefs, not to say that we are doing something wrong, but to try to make a step back and try to look at this from a bit bigger perspective.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Małgorzata, for taking the time to speak to us. We are going to have Małgorzata back again in approximately maybe 3 weeks or so. We're going to try and do it before the summer break. That usually is a little bit better. And so before the end of June, look at the website for a date. We will also send it out on our social media channels, and join us to have a chat with Małgorzata about making this change, making this shift in your own practice, and how to get curious. You know, I think that's probably been the biggest piece that I hear from Małgorzata that really drove this change in her practice. And I would say for myself, curiosity has really been my biggest drive. Susan, would you agree with that from your own
100%,
perspective?
100%. It's always my little mantra is get curious. When I feel like I need to step in and tell somebody what to do, I stand back and say, I need to be curious. Like, tell me a little bit more about that. Why this and this, and just really get curious.
Right. So stay curious. We'll talk to you shortly, and we're looking forward to having Małgorzata back for question and answer period. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was a lovely chat. I'm very honored to be within this team together, and I'm really happy we could spend this evening together.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and good night, everybody. Take care.